Well, hello, everyone. Happy Monday, y'all. Welcome to another episode of FPP Live, a time I connect with you every Monday at 7 p.m. EST to really connect all things faith, purpose, and profit. Listen, it's my goal and really my calling that you understand God has an assignment on your life and you don't need to be in a pulpit to do it. Matter of fact, if you're with me and you're growing your business, I call you a marketplace minister. You have marketplace ministry. It's my goal on Mondays to give you some great insight to add to the strategy that you need to grow your business. So I'm going to give you some faith, some purpose, and some profit on Mondays. So as you come on in, as you guys see me looking to the side, say hello, tell me where you are in the world. If you were here last week for our Bankroll Your Brand Summit, tell me that as well. I had such a great time with you all last week and reading your comments and your insight. And so just know everything I teach, listen, I'm always going to build and build and build and build until you get to the highest and best version of who God created you to be. So, with that said, I started a series a couple weeks ago. The series is called The Kingdom Principle Needed to Build a Successful Business. You know, I often call the Bible God's Wealth Hall of Fame. God intended for us all to be wealthy. He did. If you don't believe it, go read. If you think about anybody in the Bible, if you have a favorite character, Abraham, he was wealthy. Esther, my favorite girl, wealthy. I can go on and on. See, the difference back then is their wealth was in cattle and things like that. And so I need you to understand that God has an abundantly above all that he intends for you to take, but you've got to have some kingdom principles at play to go and get it. And listen, it's beyond you just making money. Oh, I'm going to talk to you always about profit. But when I'm around you, profit means gain. Well, not just when I'm around you, but Webster said it. All right. So, our foundational Bible verse for this series is while the earth remains, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, winter and summer, day and night shall not cease. That's Genesis 8:22. So, the kingdom principle that's needed is seed time and harvest. You know, as God began to put this back on my spirit, and those of you that have been watching me for a while, you know, this is not the first time I've talked from the subject of seed time and harvest. But here's what I also know: God has given me so much. He always builds on and listen. And I always think I'm learning it from me, and then I end up teaching it. So let me do a quick review. By the way, if you've missed any of this series, you can always go back and watch previous episodes on my YouTube channel. So that's nrjnetwork.com. I'm always live here in our Facebook group. And I do that because I want to see your comments. So I see some of y'all are here. So at least tell me hello, right? I see somebody gave me a heart. Say, hey, girl, hey. Even if you come back in our group and you watch the replay later, if I give you value, please tell me that. If you have questions, listen, I come back and read every comment. It's because of your questions that I teach what I teach because I'm here for you. I'm not here for me. So the only way I can continue to give you value is by you sharing what you need and what's valuable to you. All right. So with that said, let me do a quick review. Oh, let me leave that up while I do a review. So again, if you've missed any of these episodes, so this is a 4-part series, but we had a bridge. So technically today is part 4 in the series, but it's part 3 in the steps. Oh, I'll explain more in a minute. I see more of you are coming in, so say hello as you come in. So, step 1, week 1 was the 10% more rule. See, there's a difference between sowing and being a sower. Go watch that, the 10% more rule. So, the Bible verse for that episode, and by the way, a sower is always looking for ways to expand. They don't sit in complacent and good enough. So if you okay with where you are, if you're okay with mediocre and good enough, you in the wrong tribe. You need to go ahead and stop watching the videos, exit the group. I'm not here for mediocre. Matter of fact, I'm allergic to average. So when I get comfortable, that means I'm an average. That means I got somewhere else to grow to. So with that said, 2 Corinthians 9:10, no, now may he who supplies seed to the sower and bread for food supply and multiply the seed you have sown and increase the fruits of your righteousness. Okay, if you missed that episode, I can go into teaching that right now, but I'm not. But God is looking at what you're doing, what he gave you. Step number 2 is the truth about going past your potential. See, the seed God put in you at birth has potential in it. But some seeds never go past the potential stage. There's a difference between a caterpillar, which is full of potential, and a butterfly that activates all that potential that's inside of that caterpillar. Y'all with me? So, last episode was the bridge, like the chorus they have in a song. I call that the power of one because for many of you, you're being, as I talked about this in that episode, a jack of all trades, which means you're a master of none. God has given you the authority over one thing. Many of you don't know what that one thing is, or it's blurry. When God wants you to have clear water like you're in Aruba, He don't want you to have nasty, muddy water like we have in the States. Your purpose, if it's going to shine in its full splendor. Listen, if I pull this light over, that's supposed to be lighting my back prop, right? Listen, my stage behind me. You see how bright that light is? So if that light is blurry, then I would be looking blurry over here. This is the light just from my backdrop. You can't see the light that's behind me. See, and God created us to be that light, y'all. And so the power of one. So imagine that one light I just showed you, the power of that one light when it's turned all the way up. It's not even on its brightest. So when you're not clear on what you are and what you do, you are a blurry light. When you are running around trying to be the answer to everybody, which means you're nothing to no one, that means that you are a blurry light. And go on and on. So again, if you missed that episode, go and watch nrjnetwork.com. All right. So now we're continuing this series, part 4, but the step 3. The step here is a question for you. Is your business firmly planted? Hey, Janice, I see you. Is your business firmly planted? Okay. So here is a Bible verse. This one's kind of long, y'all, but I'm going to read it. So it's really Luke, the 8th chapter. I'm not going to read the whole chapter. Go read it. That could be your homework. Okay. So, the thing I love about Jesus is he talked in parables. So those of you that don't think you need to be a speaker and don't need to know how to tell your story, hello, if Jesus was a storyteller, hello, what would Jesus do? Wasn't that a whole campaign we did years ago? Anyway, okay. Luke 8, 1 through 3. I'm going to start with that. I'm going to skip around. Okay. So a sower went out to sow his seed. And as he sowed, some fell by the wayside, and it was trampled down, and the birds of the air devoured it. Some fell, excuse me, I'm starting at, I don't know where I'm starting at. I think I started at 3, and I'm going to 6, 7, and 8. Sorry, y'all. I'm telling you all incorrect. So what I do is I try to write my Bible verses down so that I don't have to be turning the Bible while I'm here with you guys. And I totally miswrote this Bible verse. So it's in chapter 8 for sure. Hey, Dima, it's been a while, girl. Hey, girl. Hey, boo, hey. All right, so let me start over. A sower went out to sow his seed, and as he sowed, some fell by the wayside, and it was trampled down, and the birds of the air devoured it. Some fell on the rock, and as soon as it sprang up, it withered away because it lacked moisture. And some fell among thorns, and the thorns sprang up with it and choked it. But others fell on ground, but others fell on good ground, sprang up, and yielded a crop 100-fold. When he had said these things, he cried, "He who has ears to hear, let him hear." I want you to think about that. Now, instead of thinking seed, I want you to think of your purpose, your gift. I'm going to read it again. Now, here, I'm going to say purpose instead of seed, okay? A sower went out to sow his purpose. And as he sowed, some of his purpose fell by the wayside, and it was trampled down, and the birds of the air devoured it, or let's say the haters devoured it. Some fell on the rock, and as soon as it sprang up, it withered away because it lacked moisture, meaning that you did no work to grow it. So it dried and withered away. And some fell among thorns, and the thorns sprang up with it and choked it. The haters that didn't tell you who you think you are, and oh, you're not smart enough yet. That's called choking your seed, your purpose. But others fell on good ground, sprang up, and yielded a crop 100-fold. So again, is your business firmly planted? So you've got to be mindful. This is step number 1, I believe. Where are you planting your seed? Step number 1, y'all. Where are you planting your seed? Now, before I dig into step number 1, Jesus goes on to explain what he means by this. Okay, so he goes on. This is now verse 11, same chapter, Luke chapter 8. Now I'm in verse 11. Now the parable is this. This is Jesus explaining it. The seed is the word of God. Those by the wayside are the ones who hear, then the devil comes and takes away the word out of their hearts, lest they should believe and be saved. But the ones on the rock are those who, when they hear, receive the word with joy, and these have no root, who believe for a while, and in time of temptation, they fall away. Now, the ones that fell among thorns are those who, when they have heard, go out and are choked with cares, riches, and pleasures of life, and bring no fruit to maturity. But the ones that fell on the good ground are those who, having heard the word with a noble and good heart, keep it and bear fruit with patience. Now, I want you to think about this. This is back in Bible days. So, yes, this is talking about the word of God, but I need you to understand God put a word inside of you. That's called purpose. That's a word, a whole word. All God is looking to do is to see if you will do the thing He created you to do. I want you to realize that there are problems in this world that you're the answer to. And when you become that answer, you're blessing the people God created you to serve here on earth. By the way, ministry means to serve a group of people. Your purpose does that. Your brilliance. Hello. Okay. So the thing I want you to get is that what Jesus is trying to say is I'm gonna read it again. I need y'all to get this. Those by the wayside, talk about your purpose. Okay, so let me start over. 11 through 15. Now the parable is this: the seed is, it says the word of God, but I'm gonna say the seed is your purpose. Okay. Those by the waysides are the one who hear that the devil comes and takes away the word out of their hearts. That's doubt. That's you second guessing yourself. That's when imposter syndrome comes up and you allow it to do it. Now, as long as we're in this flesh, we're going to be battling in this flesh. I'm not going to act like I don't have days that I have to fight it too. I'm sure Oprah does. I'm sure Tyler Perry does. I'm sure anybody you greatly admire does too. But you've got to make a choice. Do you let the enemy, remember John 10:10, the enemy comes to steal, kill, and to destroy? Are you going to let him destroy it? Are you going to do what it takes to push past fear, push past what you can see, and go after what God has put in your soul? It goes on to say, but the ones on the rock are those who, when they hear, receive the word with joy. So, how many of you guys have gotten a vision and you're so excited? That was me, by the way. Many of you guys have heard my story of struggling and failing for 17 years. The reason I wouldn't give up is because I know the vision God showed me. And I was failing miserably. One, because I was listening to all the haters, if I'm gonna keep it real. Two, because my ego was in the way. And three, I needed strategy. I also know that God allowed that to take so long, so I'd be passionate, which is why y'all hear the passion when I'm not yelling at you, I'm loving you through it wherever you are, right? So they hear it, they receive the word with joy, and these have no roots, who believe for a while, and in time of temptation fall away. So you believe when everything looks great. You're excited when you get the vision, but then when it gets hard, that's that temptation. You get an offer to do something. Oh, well, I'm going to quit doing this and I'm going to go work at this job. Did God tell you to work at that job? Did God tell you to build a business? I remember a couple years ago, many of you guys know that I had the pleasure of working with Steve Harvey. I'm going to tell y'all a real secret. Not a lot of people know this, okay? So I had the pleasure of building his Act Like a Success brand, if you guys remember that, building the programming and all of that. So when that was done, he got a new crew in and they wanted to work on this new programming and they called me. And by then, many of you know I worked for a larger training and development company. By then, I had come out to restart my business. And pretty much, he made a six-figure offer. Baby, let me tell y'all how hard it was for me to say no to that. And God immediately said to me, if you say yes to that, it'll take you off of what I have you on. That was it. That six figures sure looked good. And that was only for me. Right? I could hire a team and he would have paid for my team, not me having to pay for it. That six figure was my paycheck. Need y'all to get this. It was easier for me to say yes. That was the temptation. I know that was a test. I said no. And they didn't offer it once. They called a second time and a third time. The third time, his vice president was like, are you sure? You heard how much I said. Do we need to up the amount? I said, girl, stop calling me and tempting me. And I told her, God has called me to do this work and I've got to stay true to my calling. So I want you to get what this Bible verse is saying here, y'all. Okay. Now, the one that fell among thorns are those who, when they have heard, go out and are choked with cares. Those of you that are saying, but I don't have enough money to start, or I got to wait for my kids to finish college, or whatever the excuses are, you can tell God your excuses. God knows all the stuff that's on your plate. He's not checking your bank account. He's not checking your kids' schedule. He's not checking even who your boss is at work. He knows all of that. He's checking your faith. So, again, I ask you, is your business firmly planted? So if you're going to start to look at this, again, I told you number one already, where are you planting your seed? Where are you what are you planting it into? What's the soil? A couple of things I need you to look at here. One is the environment. So who's around you? And you guys here, we always talk about who's on my team, so I'm not going to go into that. But it's so important. Who's around you? Who's either adding in and giving you positive deposits in your mindset, or they're dissipating your faith. Sometimes you got to let people go. It could be for a season. It could be for a lifetime that you got to let them go because they could be hindering you doing the thing that you are purpose and meant to do. Some people aren't going to get it. Listen, when you're pregnant, I think I talked about this in the Bank While You're Brain Summit. Hey, y'all. Hey, Pat. Um, that it's like being birthing a baby. Actually, one of our experts talked about giving birth, and then I rolled with it. Right? I can't remember which one. It might have been Miranda. I don't remember. Right? The first trimester, and sometimes the second trimester, you cannot tell the person's pregnant. So it's between you and God. So there's been times that God has told me to do stuff, and it doesn't look like anything that anybody could ever witness. So I've had to like be not tell anybody what I'm working on because I already knew it sounded crazy to me. So let me stop telling people about it because somebody's going to try to talk me out of it. So one, you got to look at the environment because the environment is either going to help your purpose grow or it's going to hinder it. The other thing you got to look at is number two, how are you nurturing your seed? So what are you planting or where are you planting it? Looking at the soil. What's the environment? What's around you? Is your environment conducive to you growing your business? You're looking at your people, looking at where you are. Like some of you, listen, I remember this was before I was married, in my apartment, I took my whole dining room down and made it my office because I needed an environment that made me feel like I was working. So you've got to look at who's around you, look at the environment. Is it really helping you produce what God has called you to produce? When I moved into this house, this is a guest bedroom that I'm in. That's my studio now. Why? Because I kept falling over all the cords that I had. Half my office was half studio, half office. And I'm clumsy. And at least once, probably twice a week, I would fall. And during COVID, I had to say to my husband, ongoing, I'm okay. Because the fall I would make would be so loud because I'm so clumsy and it would be a good hard fall. Why am I sharing that with you? Because it made me stop wanting to do video because didn't want to leave my studio up. My environment wasn't conducive to me doing this, and I know God wanted me to do this on a weekly basis, y'all. Okay? I go on and on. So, again, looking at the environment, where are you planting your seed? Second is you need to water it and fertilize it. It's one thing to plant it, but it doesn't grow just because you planted it. So, watering and fertilizing. So, your watering is the process. Now, I played a video last week. Those of you that were part of the Bank While You Breathe Summit, that TD Jakes went all the way in on process. Many of you, I've invited you. Some of you, the reason your business is failing is because you don't know the 4 systems you need, which is the process to water your business. Those 4 systems are what I'm teaching you at the Bank While Your Brains Intensive. So, yes, I'm going to invite you every week because some of you didn't get the $300 off. Now you got $100 off before that goes away. It's September 29th and 30th here in the DMV area. I've rented a private mansion. I'm going to show a quick commercial, and each week I'm going to share a little tidbit from another client so you get to hear the insight. Listen, this event used to be called Be the Answer. I have up-leveled it. Whole different experience, even deeper dive into the 4-step process you need. So you need water and you need fertilizer. The fertilizer is your coach. So your coach is going to show you the strategy you need to grow. So those of you that know, like you know, that I'm meant to be your coach, I'm going to share this quick commercial. Then I'll come back and share step number 3.
Coaching has changed my life. Following Nicole and many others like her, but Nicole in particular, and working with her, there has just been an awakening in me. And I am able to launch things, do things, own my fierceness. The gift that God poured into me, I know is to be used for other women. I've identified my ideal client. It has just been an amazing, amazing experience.
You guys just see me over here sometimes. I'm pushing so many buttons. Listen, sometimes I'm great at technology and sometimes I'm not because I'm trying to do too many things. So listen, again, every week I'm going to give you a little tidbit from another client just so you can see if indeed these people are speaking to you. Maybe this is where you are. Maybe this is what you need. So if you know, like, go to bybintensive.com. And by the way, if you have questions, here in our Facebook group, those of you that are on our Facebook group, I have posted a Q&A video. But even on the under the FAQs, it goes in more and more detail on that video. All right. If you have questions, please feel free to post them here in our group. And I look forward to coaching a small group of you because I only can I'm only taking 30 people. And folks are already registering. So, with that said, let me do a quick review. All right. So, step one, we're looking at, is your business firmly planted? Again, looking from Luke chapter 8. Step number one is, where are you planting your seed? What soil is it in? Second, you got to water it and fertilize it. So there's a 4-step process. Let me tell you the 4 steps. You've got to have a purpose system, first of all. So many of you guys don't even know your niche. You think you do and you don't. You've got to have a purpose or a bridge system. You've got to have a back-end system, a sales system, and a marketing, or what I call a tribe building system. You know, all 4 of those at play. By the way, all 4 of those is what I'm going through at the BYB, Bankroll Your Brands Intensive. All right. And then you need a coach that's going to help you grow and push you, push you to grow. Now, the Bible verse here is, where did it go? My Bible verse that is here is Proverbs 24-5. The lazy man will not plow because of winter. He will beg during harvest and have nothing. Counsel in the heart of man is like deep water, but a man of understanding will draw it out. I'm going to let y'all marinate on that, and all of you will get different things from that. Okay. So the last thing you've got to really look at, are you doing too much or not enough at all? You know, where I see so many people that start businesses and they don't know what to do. So they're doing all the stuff they see everybody else do, which means you're doing too much. It's just like if I see my neighbor watering her flowers and she has roses and I have chrysanthemums or something. I don't even know because I'm not a plant person. But she's watering her roses the way roses are meant to be watered. And I'm over here watering my tulips like they're roses. My tulips will probably die. Or maybe I'm watering my bush like her flowers. And I need you to understand that everybody's gift is different. So what you need to do, it may not look like you see people in Instagram. By the way, when you're watching people on Instagram, usually you're watching their highlight reels. You can't see all the work they've done before they've gotten to that place. You know, TD Jakes talked about this yesterday in his sermon, how, you know, you're watching people on Instagram, which is all the good stuff. They're not telling you all the bad stuff, all the hard stuff they've been through. It's a process. So you got to look at the soil. You got to look at, are you watering and fertilizing it? And even watering it, you got to water it the right way. Fertilizing it, you got to fertilize it with the right fertilizer. Have you ever been to Home Depot and seen how many fertilizers there are at Home Depot? It's overwhelming. So imagine if I bought the wrong fertilizer for my brilliance, my purpose, how it would not grow. Sometimes it'll choke out the seed and kill it. Now, as we close this, the Bible verse for are you doing too much is Proverbs 20:21, which says, an inheritance gained hastily at the beginning will not be blessed at all. Or it says at the end. At all, at the end. I added that, right? So as I read from Luke chapter 8, now you guys know Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are each of the disciples, their different viewpoint on the same story. So Matthew had his own viewpoint on the sower. It's Matthew 13:18-23. I'm not going to read it, but what I am going to read is what is here in my favorite, my Tony Evans Bible commentary. What it says under here says this: for some, the evil one snatches away the word before it can penetrate the heart. You know, what's interesting is when I was little, people used to tell me I talk too much. Guess what I do for a living now? I talk. I used to be called bossy. Yeah, I'm still kind of bossy. But I know that my friends, when they did those things to me when I was little, it wasn't meant to harm me. It was the truth. I was bossy and I did talk too much. But I've had to learn to use those things for the exact reason God made me a talker and a little bossy, called a coach, right? So listen, imagine what happens when it penetrates your heart. The enemy will use it to hinder you. It goes on to say, others receive the word with joy, but they fail to grow because of the cares and pressures of the world. And I said this a minute ago. They fail to grow. Are you failing to grow? What's hindering you from your growth? What's keeping you from your next level? Listen, you could be successful with a 6-figure paycheck, sitting in a corner office with your name on the door, and still be failing to grow. Still other believers aren't able to bear fruit because the word becomes choked out by worldliness and wealth. So I can go on and on. I need you to really pay attention to where your brilliance is being, what soil is it being planted in? I can say your brilliance or your business. Is your business firmly planted? Or I can even say, is your brilliance firmly planted? That's our conversation for this episode. So I really want you to sit with where you are. Look at your environment. Look at the people you have around you. Look at your team. Look at your environment in general. What ways do you need to make changes for it to be conducive to actually nurture your seed? Then I want you to look at how you're watering and fertilizing your seed. Water is the 4 areas I told you. I want you to look at your cells. If you do not have predictable revenue, you have a hole in your cell system. If you don't have a back-end system, meaning that you don't have some way where people can work with you and you don't have to be present, yeah, that's a hole. I can go on and on about that. If you don't have tribe building, many of you guys talked about and being able to find your ideal clients, that's a system. And if you don't know what your niche is, you're not clear on what it is, that's your purpose system. That's the 4 processes you need. You can't water if you're not clear on the process. And then the fertilizer. I'm clear I'm not everybody's coach. So whether that's me or whoever else you've been looking at, you've got to hire the right coach and start the journey now. Why? Because people need you. So if you know, like you know, now's your time. BYBintensive.com. I look forward to serving many of you. All right. So we will continue and close out this series next week. We will close out this series. And you guys know me well enough to know that I'll start another one, whatever God drops in my spirit. But I really want you to assess where you are and what support you need, and then go and get it. I want you to also to assess if you're doing too much or not enough at all, and be willing to do whatever it takes. Listen, I remember a time in my own business where I had to risk it all to gain it all. I didn't know then that my business was going to be fruitful, but I knew that I didn't want God to meet me one day and say, girl, go back. What happened? I want God to say to me the day I get to meet our creator face to face, I want him to say, job well done. I'm so proud of you. So I do whatever it takes. Oh, and is it easy? Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's so much fun. Most days I can't believe I get paid to do this. But there are hard moments too. But I see how God always recovers because I do the hard thing, not the easy thing. And some of you aren't doing the hard thing. And that is why your business isn't firmly planted. So it's time to do the work. All right. So with that said, I want to hear the value you got out of today's conversation. I want to hear the one thing you're committed to do to move your business forward now. Right. And let me end with this Colossians 2:7 that says, let your roots grow down into him and let your lives be built on him. Then your faith will grow strong in the truth you were taught and you will overflow with thankfulness. I want you to be in your overflow. God has overflow intended for you. And it's my greatest pleasure and desire that you go and get it. All right. So with that said, y'all, have a good rest of your week. I'll see you next Monday for another FPP Live.